October rain pounded the roof of Brittany Lewis's house with a monotonous beat. Stephen Reeves parked his black sedan in the driveway, turned off the engine, and sat motionless for a few minutes, gathering his thoughts. He knew the upcoming conversation wouldn't be easy. 3 months of a secret relationship with a female marketing employee was supposed to end today. The decision wasn't easy, but every time he came home and saw Amanda's smile, the guilt made him feel worse. Stephen took a deep breath, got out of the car, and walked briskly to the front door. The bell cut through the silence of Brittany's house. A few seconds later, the door swung open and a young woman appeared on the doorstep. "Stephen!" Brittany exclaimed with a happy smile. "You didn't tell me you were coming." Her eyes shone with happiness, and it only made Stephen's chest heavier. "We need to talk," he said dryly, walking into the house. Her intuition told Brittany that something was wrong. The smile slowly faded from her face as she ushered Stephen into the living room. The small but cozy room was filled with plants in pots of various sizes. On the coffee table were fashion magazines and a sketch pad. Brittany often said she dreamed of becoming a fashion designer, but never decided to leave her stable job. "Is something wrong?" "You seem tense," she asked, watching Stephen nervously pace the room. Stephen stopped at the window. Raindrops dripped down the glass, distorting the view of the quiet street of the small Georgia town. "I can't continue this relationship any longer, Brittany," he finally said, turning to face her. "It has to end, tonight." Brittany froze, as if she couldn't believe her ears. There was a heavy silence in the room, broken only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. "You're joking, aren't you?" she said quietly, but there was a note of panic in her voice. "Stephen, if this is some kind of stupid joke, it's not funny at all." "I'm not joking," Stephen replied firmly. "I've thought about this a lot. What's going on between us? It's a mistake, Brittany. I have a family, a wife." "Family?" Brittany interrupted him, her voice trembling. "What about me? I thought I meant something to you too." She stepped closer, trying to take his hand, but Stephen stepped back. "Please don't make this difficult," he said. "I've made my decision." "Don't complicate it?" Brittany's eyes filled with tears. "You come here after 3 months, tell me it's over, and ask me not to complicate things?" Brittany sank to the couch, her shoulders shaking. Stephen stood motionless, feeling pity and determination struggling inside him to end things once and for all. "I never promised you anything more than that," he said quietly. "You knew I was married." "But you said you were unhappily married," Brittany exclaimed, raising her weeping face to him. "You told me how you and Amanda were estranged, how you lacked passion and understanding." Stephen turned away, ashamed of his own words, which were now being used against him. "I was wrong," he said. "Amanda is a good wife, a mother. She doesn't deserve this. I can't keep deceiving her." Brittany stood up abruptly and walked over to him. In her eyes, desperation was replaced by determination. "Stephen, listen to me." She took his hands in hers. "I will do anything to keep you. Anything. I can change. I can be more understanding. I can—" "It's not about you," Stephen interrupted her, releasing her hands gently. "It's about me choosing my family. Our relationship was a mistake from the beginning, and I have to fix it." "A mistake?" Brittany interjected, a hint of anger in her voice. "You mean everything between us was just a mistake for you?" Stephen remained silent, unable to find the words to soften the blow. "Answer me!" Brittany demanded, her voice breaking into a shout. "Was it all a lie? Every touch, every look, every word?" "I didn't mean to hurt you," Stephen said quietly, "but I can't go on living a lie. It's not fair to you, to me, to my family." Brittany looked petrified. Her eyes, still wet with tears, darkened. "You can't just leave," she said with a menacing calm. "Not after everything that's happened between us." Stephen felt a chill run down his spine. "Brittany, please," he began. "Let's end this civilized. We're still co-workers. We have to see each other at work." "Colleagues?" Brittany grinned bitterly. "After you whispered to me that you loved me, that I was special, that you'd never met a woman like me?" Stephen ran his hand nervously through his hair. "I'm sorry if I gave you false hope," he said. "But my decision is final. I choose my family. Leave. Brittany said suddenly, turning away from him. Just go now. Brittany! Go away! She shouted, grabbing a vase off the coffee table and throwing it at the wall beside him. The vase shattered, shards flying across the floor. Stephen instinctively recoiled, then quickly headed for the exit. I'm sorry, he said, stopping at the door. I really am. Brittany stood in the middle of the room, her fists clenched, her body shaking. You're going to regret this, she said so quietly that Stephen barely heard her. You can't just use me and then throw me away like garbage. Stephen hurried outside, slamming the door behind him. The rain was getting heavier, but he ignored it. Getting into the car, he slapped his palms on the steering wheel and cursed loudly. The meeting had gone worse than he'd expected, but at least it was over. Now he needed to move on, to try to get his life back to normal, to be a better husband for Amanda. Stephen started the engine, but he was in no hurry to leave. His gaze involuntarily went to the living room window, where he had just left Brittany. Through the streams of rain on the glass, he saw her silhouette at the window. She stood motionless, looking at his car. Even through the distance, he could feel her gaze, full of pain and anger. Something about that frozen figure made him shudder. Stephen quickly put the car in gear and pulled onto the road. On the way home, Stephen decided to stop at the Gentleman Jim's bar on the outskirts of town. He didn't plan on drinking much. He still had a car to drive, but he needed some time to gather his thoughts before meeting Amanda. Breaking up with Brittany had left a heavy residue, and he feared his wife would notice his condition. The bar was half empty, which wasn't surprising for a Tuesday. A few regulars sat at the bar, talking softly, and a couple of men were playing pool in the corner. Stephen sat down at a table at the far end of the room, ordered a whiskey, and stared at the amber liquid bobbing in the glass. Stephen? Stephen Reeves, damn it! Came a familiar voice. Stephen looked up and saw Vincent Kelly, his old friend and former colleague, who now worked for a rival firm. Vince! Stephen tried to smile. What are you doing here? I was meeting a client nearby and I thought I'd have a drink before I went home, Vincent said, taking a seat across from him. What are you doing here at this hour? Isn't your firm across town? Stephen sipped from his glass, feeling the alcohol burn his throat. Long story, he said. Not a happy one by the look of you, Vincent said, beckoning the waiter over and ordering a beer. Trouble at work? Not exactly. Stephen hesitated, but then decided he needed someone to talk to, and Vincent had always been a reliable friend. Personal problems. Or rather, just solved one problem, but I'm not sure I did it right. Vincent looked at his friend carefully. Sounds serious. Do you want to share? Stephen looked around, making sure no one could hear them. I've been having an affair, he said quietly, with a woman from our office. I ended it today. Vincent whistled quietly. Wow, I didn't expect that from you, Steve. You always struck me as the model family man. I didn't expect it of myself, Stephen grinned bitterly. It just happened. First the innocent flirting, then the late-night work together, then... And who was she? Vincent asked. Someone I know? Brittany Lewis from marketing. She came in after you left. Oh, the new girl? Vincent nodded. How did she take the breakup? Stephen cringed, remembering the broken vase and Brittany's threatening words. Not very well, he said, to put it mildly. Hysterical? The tears? Threats? Vincent asked understandingly. All of them. Stephen finished his whiskey and ordered another. I'm afraid it might cause problems at work. You bet, Vincent agreed. Office romances rarely end well, but you made the right decision, Steve. It's better to end it now than to let it go too far. I know, Stephen nodded. It's just, I didn't expect her to take it so hard. We both knew I was married. I have a family. Women often hope they can change things, Vincent said philosophically, especially if you told her what she wanted to hear. Stephen was embarrassed to realize that that was exactly what had happened. I told her a lot of things, he admitted. I complained about my problems with Amanda, said we were estranged. I made my marriage look worse than it really was. And the truth? In reality, we're fine, Stephen said after a pause. Just normal problems, like all married couples. Nothing that couldn't be solved if we tried. I just succumbed to weakness. Vincent sipped his beer and looked at his friend thoughtfully. "What now?" he asked. "Does Amanda know?" "No," Stephen answered quickly. "And I don't want her to find out. Never. It would break her heart. And I do love her, Vince. Despite what I've done, I want to keep our family together." "Then you'd better pray that Brittany doesn't decide to get revenge by telling her," Vincent pointed out. Stephen turned pale. The thought had crossed his mind before, but hearing it from someone else was particularly unpleasant. "Do you think she might?" he asked. "I don't know," Vincent shrugged. "You know her better than that, but rejected women can sometimes do desperate things." Stephen remembered Brittany's last words, "You'll regret this." The memory sent a chill down his spine. "I hope she'll cool down and realize that this is what's best for everyone," he said, more to convince himself than Vincent. "After all, we're still co-workers. She doesn't want any problems at work either." "Let's hope so," Vincent nodded. "But be prepared for anything." They were silent for a moment, each absorbed in his own thoughts. "Vince," Stephen said at last, "I want to ask you something." "Sure, man. Anything. Let's not talk about this anymore, ever again. I want to bury the subject. It was a mistake I fixed, and now I want to move on." Vincent looked at his friend seriously and nodded. "I understand. You can be sure Amanda won't hear from me." "Thank you," Stephen exhaled with relief. "You're a real friend." "Just be careful," Vincent said, "and try to be a good husband. Amanda deserves that." "I know," Stephen replied quietly. "Believe me, I know." When Stephen returned home, Amanda had already prepared dinner. The aroma of baked chicken and fresh-baked goods filled their modest two-story home. "Hi, honey," Stephen said, hugging his wife from behind as she stood at the stove. "Are you cooking something delicious?" Amanda smiled, turning to him. "Your favorite dish," she replied. "I thought I'd surprise you. You're late tonight." Stephen felt a prick of conscience. He tried to look relaxed, though inside he was still a storm of emotions after his conversation with Brittany. He'd been late for work, then stopped for a drink with Vincent. "Met him unexpectedly at the bar," he said, trying to tell the truth where he could. "With Vincent? Haven't seen him in a while. How's he doing?" "Same. Working at Mason Industries, happy with his life." Stephen helped set the table, trying to be attentive and thoughtful. During dinner, he listened to Amanda's account of her day at school, laughing at stories of naughty students, asking questions. He watched her spirited face, the way she spoke passionately about a new teaching method she was implementing, and thought about how he could have risked it all for an affair. Amanda wasn't just beautiful. There was a natural grace and kindness about her that showed in her every gesture, in every word. Her dark eyes glowed with intelligence and warmth. Stephen remembered how they'd met in college, how he'd immediately realized she was special. He had once idolized her, thought he was the luckiest man in the world. When had that changed? When did their relationship become mundane? When did the everyday worries overshadow the feeling they had for each other in the beginning? And why was he looking for a solution to his problems, not in a conversation with his wife, but in the arms of another woman? "Stephen, are you listening to me?" Amanda's voice snapped him out of his reverie. "I'm sorry, I was thinking." He was embarrassed. "What did you say?" "I was asking if you wanted to go to the lake this weekend. The forecast says good weather so we could have a picnic." "That's a great idea," Stephen said enthusiastically. "It's been a long time since we've been out together." After dinner, they cleared the table and washed the dishes together. Then Amanda went to check the students' notebooks, and Stephen turned on the TV, though he hardly paid attention to what was on. His thoughts kept coming back to Brittany, to her words and the look in her eyes as he walked away. Something in her eyes made him nervous. Before going to bed, Stephen showered, then went into the bedroom where Amanda was already in bed with a book. "What are you reading?" he asked, lying down next to her. "A new novel by an author I like," she replied, showing him the cover. "Would you like me to read it aloud?" "I'd love to," Stephen said, moving closer and putting his arm around her. Amanda began to read, and Stephen closed his eyes, listening to her melodious voice. In that moment, he vowed to himself that he would never betray her trust again, that he would do everything he could to make their marriage stronger and happier. The next few days passed relatively quietly. At work, Stephen tried to avoid Brittany, which wasn't easy considering their departments often collaborated. When they did run into each other in the hallways or in general meetings, Brittany would nod coldly at him and avert her gaze. It wasn't pleasant, but Stephen preferred that reaction to a tantrum or a scene. At home, he was especially attentive to Amanda, bringing her coffee in bed in the morning, calling her during the day just to tell her he loved her, offering to go to her favorite restaurant on the weekend. Amanda was pleasantly surprised by this change, though she asked several times if he was okay. "Of course everything's fine," he replied with a smile. "I just realized that I haven't been paying much attention to you lately. I want to fix that." On Thursday, returning from his lunch break, Stephen found a folded piece of paper on his desk. He looked around. There was no one in his office. Unfolding the note, he read it in neat, feminine handwriting. "You'll regret it if you don't come back to me. I have ways of making you suffer." Stephen felt a chill go down inside. There was no doubt who the author of the note was. He quickly crumpled the paper and tossed it into the trash can, then wiped his suddenly sweaty palms on his pants. This was too much. It was one thing to react emotionally at the moment of the breakup, and quite another to be threatened a few days later. He decided to talk to Brittany, to clear the air once and for all. After lunch, they had a general meeting scheduled with the marketing department. Stephen waited until the meeting was over, and as everyone began to leave, he said quietly to Brittany, "I need to talk to you. Alone." She looked at him coldly, but nodded. They left the conference room and headed toward an empty hallway at the far end of the office. "What do you need?" Brittany asked, crossing her arms over her chest. "A memo," Stephen said, lowering his voice to a whisper. "This is crossing the line, Brittany. Threats? Seriously?" "I don't know what you mean," she said innocently, but a familiar anger flashed in her eyes. "Don't play games with me," Stephen said. "I know it's you. Look, I understand that you're upset, but it's not going to change my mind. I've chosen my family, and that's final." Brittany suddenly stepped closer, her eyes filling with tears. "Stephen, please," she said, and her voice trembled. "I can't let you go so easily. These 3 months have been the best months of my life. You can't deny that there's something special between us." "Brittany," Stephen sighed, "I'm sorry that I hurt you, but my decision won't change. I love my wife and I want to keep my family together." "You said you loved me," she whispered, reaching up to touch his face. "You said you'd never felt anything like this before." Stephen took a step back, avoiding her touch. "I said a lot of stupid things that I regret now," he admitted. "It wasn't fair to you, but we have to move on. Both of us." "I don't want to move on," Brittany said stubbornly. "I want to be with you, and I'll do anything to make that happen." The threatening note in her voice came back, making Stephen tense. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "What are you going to do?" "What I have to," Brittany replied simply. "I'm not going to let you throw me out of your life so easily. Brittany, if you're thinking of telling Amanda—" "Oh, there are many ways to get a man back," Brittany interrupted him with a cold smile. "It doesn't have to be to destroy your marriage, although that's always still an option." It had been a week since Stephen had ended his relationship with Brittany. At work, he tried to avoid seeing her, turning his attention to current projects and documents that required his attention. If they did cross paths in the corridors of the office, Brittany would only stare at him silently with a hard stare. At those moments, Stephen felt a chill run down his spine, but each time he reassured himself that the situation would return to normal in time. At home, Stephen tried his best to be the perfect husband. He helped Amanda with household chores, cooked dinner when she was late for school, bought her favorite flowers for no special occasion. Amanda, though pleasantly surprised by this attention, sometimes looked at her husband in bewilderment, as if trying to figure out the reason for this sudden change. Saturday morning, Stephen went out into the yard to mow the lawn. The October sun was faintly breaking through the clouds, promising a cool but clear day. He was just starting his work when he noticed Derek, their neighbor across the street, fiddling with his car. Derek had lived across the street from them for 10 years. An elderly man who had retired 3 years ago, he spent most of his time in his garage fixing up his old Ford or doing carpentry work. He was a quiet but attentive neighbor, and nothing in the neighborhood escaped his observant eye. "Good morning, Derek," shouted Stephen, waving his hand. Derek straightened up, wiped his hands on a rag, and slowly crossed the street. "Morning, Stephen," he replied, stopping at the fence. "Nice day for yard work." "Yeah, we need to get it done before the rains," Stephen agreed, turning off the mower. "How's it going?" "How's Elaine?" "She's fine, thanks. Elaine went to her sister's in Savannah for a couple days." Derek paused for a moment, then added, as if by the way, "Listen, Stephen, I noticed something last night. I think you should know." Stephen tensed but tried to keep his expression casual. "What do you mean?" "Well, I was up, out on the porch for a smoke around midnight," Derek began, lowering his voice, "and I noticed a young woman standing on the street in front of your house. Just standing there, staring. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe she was waiting for someone. But she stood there for almost an hour without moving. And when I was about to go to bed, she just turned around and walked away." Stephen felt his insides grow cold. His first thought was Brittany, but he tried to stay calm. "Strange," he said, trying not to sound too interested. "What did she look like?" "Young, slim," Derek thought, remembering. "Dark hair, I think. I can't be sure it was dark, and I didn't want to shine my flashlight on her to spook her. But I was suspicious of her standing in one place for so long. I thought maybe it was some friend of Amanda's, but at this hour—" "Thanks for telling me, Derek." Stephen smiled, strained. "Probably nothing serious, but I'll keep it in mind." "Yeah, it's probably nothing," Derek agreed, though he could hear the uncertainty in his voice. "I just thought you should know. There's not much going on these days." After saying goodbye to his neighbor, Stephen went back to mowing the lawn, but his thoughts were far away. He had no doubt that the woman Derek was talking about was Brittany. What was she doing outside their house in the middle of the night? Observing? Planning something? The thought sent a chill down Stephen's spine. He decided not to say anything to Amanda yet, so as not to alarm her. After all, maybe Brittany was just driving by and stopped for a minute. Or maybe it wasn't her at all. But deep down, Stephen knew he was fooling himself. That evening, as he and Amanda were having dinner, Stephen noticed that his wife looked troubled. She barely touched her food, flinched involuntarily several times at sounds from the street, and kept glancing out the window. "Is something wrong?" he asked at last. "You're not yourself today." Amanda put down her fork and sighed. "I don't know, maybe I'm just overreacting," she said, fidgeting with her napkin. "But something strange happened today." Stephen tensed but tried to look merely interested. "What was it?" "I was coming home from school, walking across the parking lot to my car, and I noticed a woman who seemed to be following me," Amanda began. "I didn't think much of it at first, but when I got into my car, I saw her get into hers and follow me. She kept her distance, but I could definitely see that she was following my route." "Are you sure?" Stephen asked, feeling everything clench inside. "Maybe you were just on your way?" "That's what I thought at first," Amanda nodded. "But when I purposely made a circle through the residential area in front of the supermarket, she was still following me. And when I parked in front of the store, she stopped a few spaces away from me and stayed in the car. I went into the supermarket and saw through the window that she was watching me." "Did you see what she looked like?" Stephen asked cautiously. "Young, maybe about 30. Dark hair, stylishly dressed." Amanda looked at her husband. "Stephen, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't even buy anything. I just went out the other exit and left quickly. But the strangest thing was that when I got home and started unloading things from the trunk, I saw her car at the end of the street. She just sat there and watched." Stephen felt his heart beat faster. The description matched Brittany exactly. Not only was she watching their house at night, but she was watching Amanda during the day. The situation was getting dangerous. "Didn't you notice the license plate number?" he asked. "No, I was too scared." Amanda shook her head. "Do you think I should be worried?" Stephen took her hand in his, trying to look confident. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe it's some kind of misunderstanding, or a parent of one of your students who wanted to talk but didn't dare." "Maybe," Amanda agreed uncertainly. "But she was acting very strangely. I've never seen her around parents before. If it happens again, tell me right away," Stephen said firmly. "If necessary, We'll go to the police." "I hope it doesn't come to that," Amanda sighed. "Maybe I really am exaggerating. Anyway, let's not talk about it. Tell me about your day." Stephen started to talk about unimportant office matters, but his mind was on other things. He had to talk to Brittany, and as soon as possible. This had gone too far. At night, when Amanda was already asleep, Stephen quietly left the bedroom and went downstairs to the living room. The clock showed almost midnight. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed Brittany's number. After a few beeps, she answered. "Stephen?" I could hear the surprise in her voice. "You're calling me in the middle of the night? What's wrong? Did you miss me?" "Stop it, Brittany," Stephen said quietly but firmly. "I know what you're doing." "What are you talking about?" she asked innocently. "You followed Amanda today and stood outside our house last night." Stephen tried to speak calmly, but anger was breaking through his voice. "This has to stop." Now, there was a pause, then Brittany laughed softly. "Your wife is more observant than I thought," she said. "Yes, Stephen, I was watching her. I wanted to see what was so special about her that you chose her over me." "You're out of line," Stephen hissed. "This is stalking. It's against the law, Brittany." "Is it legal to cheat on your wife?" she retorted. "Relax, Stephen. I just wanted to see what was going on, to see for myself this perfect family that you left me for." "Listen to me carefully." Stephen lowered his voice for fear that Amanda might wake up. "I want you to stop following me and my wife. No stalking, no notes, no phone calls. Otherwise, I'll be forced to go to the police." "You won't do that," Brittany said firmly, "because then you'd have to explain why I'm acting this way. Tell me about our affair, about how you swore you loved me and then dumped me without explanation." Stephen clenched his fist with impotence. She was right. Going to the police would mean the truth would come out. "What do you want, Brittany?" he asked tiredly. "What do you want?" "I want you back," she answered simply. "And I'll do it at any cost, Stephen. At any cost." "It's not going to happen," he said firmly. "Never. I love my wife and I will stay with her." "We'll see." Brittany's voice turned steely. "I have my own methods of persuasion. Maybe your precious Amanda will decide to leave you when she finds out what you're really like." "Don't you dare go near her!" Stephen could barely keep from screaming. "If you hurt her—" "What will you do, Stephen?" Brittany interrupted him. "Would you hit me? Go to the police? Make yourself look like a total jerk in front of all your co-workers and friends?" Stephen remained silent, realizing he was cornered. "Good night, my love," Brittany said sweetly. "I'll see you at work." And she hung up, leaving Stephen in the dark living room with a sense of impending disaster. The next few days passed in tense anticipation. Stephen was constantly on the lookout, checking the neighborhood when he got home, walking Amanda to school and picking her up after work, explaining that he wanted to spend more time together. At work, he avoided Brittany, postponed meetings they were supposed to attend together, and tried not to stay in the office late. Brittany seemed to keep to herself. She didn't try to talk to him, she didn't leave notes, and Amanda didn't mention stalking anymore. Stephen began to hope that his tough talk had had an effect, and Brittany decided to back off. But on Wednesday, everything changed. Stephen was working on his quarterly report when his phone rang. It was Amanda. It was unusual for her to call in the middle of the day. She usually had classes at that time. "Amanda?" he answered with concern in his voice. "Is something wrong?" "Stephen," his wife's voice trembled as if she was crying. "Can you come home, right now?" "What happened?" Stephen was already getting up from the table, fumbling for the car keys. "Are you okay?" "Just come over, please," Amanda asked, and hung up the phone. Stephen ran out of the office, hastily explaining to his secretary that he had a family emergency. All the way home, he raced the car, imagining the worst. What if Brittany had done something? What if she had told Amanda about their affair? When he pulled up to the house, he saw Amanda's car in the driveway. He jumped out of his car and burst into the house. "Amanda!" he called out. "Amanda, where are you?" "I'm here," came a quiet voice from the living room. Stephen entered the room and froze in place. Amanda was sitting on the couch with her arms wrapped around herself. Her face was pale, with a dark bruise blurring under her left eye. Her upper lip was split, and there were bloodstains on the collar of her white blouse. "Oh my God!" Stephen breathed, rushing over to her. What happened? Who did this? Amanda stared blankly in front of her. I was walking back to my car after school, she began quietly. And that woman, she was there again. She came up to me and started saying horrible things. What kind of things? Stephen asked, feeling himself grow cold with fear. She said I should divorce you. Amanda finally looked up at her husband. She said she owned you, that you loved each other. When I said she was crazy and tried to leave, she grabbed me and hit me. I fell down and she kept yelling that I was ruining your love, that I should disappear from your life. Stephen listened, feeling a wave of rage and despair rising inside him. Brittany had crossed every conceivable boundary. Had anyone seen this? He asked. Did you call the police? A few co-workers ran out at the noise and dragged her away, Amanda replied. She ran away before anyone could call the police. The director suggested we go to the station, but I was in such shock. I just wanted to go home. Stephen put his arm around his wife, careful not to hurt her. His thoughts were racing feverishly. Brittany had attacked Amanda in broad daylight, in front of witnesses. It was no longer just stalking. It was assault, and she had bluntly told Amanda about their relationship. Stephen, Amanda pulled away and looked him in the eye. Who is this woman? Why is she saying these things? Stephen opened his mouth but couldn't find the words. How to explain? How to confess his betrayal? I have to make a phone call, he said, standing up. This has gone too far. He pulled out his phone and dialed Brittany's number, ignoring Amanda's questioning look. After a few beeps, Brittany answered. I thought you'd call, she said with a note of triumph in her voice. How's your dear wife? Not too upset? You're out of your mind, Stephen hissed, backing away from the window so Amanda wouldn't hear. You attacked my wife. Do you realize you could be arrested for that? I don't care, Brittany replied coldly. I warned you, Stephen. I said I would get you back at any cost, and I will. Now your wife knows I own you. Soon she'll kick you out herself. I hate you, Stephen said, and every word was laced with venom. Do you hear me? I never really loved you. You were a mistake, a moment of weakness. I despise you for what you did today. There was silence on the other end of the line. That's not what you said when we were in bed, Brittany finally said, but there was uncertainty in her voice. I lied, Stephen replied stiffly, and I want you out of my life. I want you out of my life now. Otherwise, I'm calling the police and telling them everything about how you stalked us, how you threatened us, how you attacked my wife. You have witnesses, Brittany. You're going to jail. You won't. But the confidence in her voice was gone. You don't want everyone to know about us. I don't care, Stephen cut her off. I'd rather lose my reputation than let you continue to terrorize my family. It's over, Brittany. Leave us alone, or the next call will be to the police. He hung up the phone and turned around. Amanda stood in the doorway, pale, eyes widened with shock. Tears were streaming down her face. Amanda, Stephen began, taking a step toward her. I can explain. Who were you talking to? She asked quietly, though it was obvious in her eyes that she already knew the answer. It was her, wasn't it? The woman who hit me? Stephen nodded, unable to lie. Who was she, Stephen? Amanda's voice was filled with pain. Why does she say you two love each other? Stephen lowered his head. The moment of truth had come, and no excuse, no lie could hide his betrayal any longer. Her name is Brittany Lewis, he said quietly. She works in the marketing department of our company, and we've been having an affair. Amanda staggered and grabbed the door jamb to keep from falling. An affair? She asked, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. You cheated on me? It went on for 3 months, Stephen said, feeling every word hurt them both. And I ended it 2 weeks ago. I realized that I was making a terrible mistake, that I was risking losing the most precious thing I have. You, our family. 3 months? Amanda shook her head as if trying to comprehend what she was hearing. All that time, when you came home late, when you said you had urgent work to do, were you with her? Stephen didn't answer, but his silence was more eloquent than any words. And now she's obsessed with you? Amanda continued. Is that why she's stalking me? Threatens me? She didn't want to accept the breakup, Stephen said. I tried to explain to her that I was choosing you, our family, but she— Don't tell me you're choosing anyone, Amanda suddenly shrieked, her voice breaking into a sob. Like this was any kind of honest choice, like I knew I was in a competition for your love. Stephen stood in the middle of the living room, feeling small and pathetic in the face of the pain he had caused the woman he loved. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I do love you, Amanda. What happened with Brittany was a mistake, a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness that lasted 3 months? Amanda grinned bitterly. You lied to me every day, Stephen. Looked me in the eye and lied to me. I know, he said, unable to find any other words. I've been a terrible husband. Amanda slowly sank down onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. Her shoulders shuddered with silent sobs. Stephen wanted to go over and hug her, but realized he had no right to do so. Not now. And that woman, Amanda finally said, lifting her crying face. Does she really think that you love her? I never loved her, Stephen said firmly. I said words to her that I shouldn't have said, made promises to her that I wasn't going to keep. I'm as much to blame for her as I am for you, but when I realized I could lose you, I decided to end the relationship. And now she wants revenge? Amanda asked. Is that why she's following us, threatening us? She doesn't want to let me go, Stephen said. But I just made it clear to her that it's over between us, and if she doesn't leave us alone, I'll go to the police. Amanda was silent for a long time, staring into the space in front of her. There was a heavy silence in the room, broken only by the ticking of the clock. I don't know if I can forgive you, Stephen, she said at last in a low, tortured voice. You broke my heart. You betrayed me with another woman. How can I trust you again? I'll do anything to earn your trust again, Stephen said, kneeling down in front of her. I swear to you, Amanda, I will be the most loyal, the most honest husband. Give me a chance to prove it. Amanda looked at him with a long gaze full of pain and doubt. I need time, she said. I can't make a decision right now. I can't even think clearly. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of breaking glass from the front door. Stephen jumped to his feet. What's that? Amanda asked fearfully. The next second, the front door swung open with a clatter. Standing in the doorway was Brittany, holding a shotgun. Her face was contorted with rage, her eyes glittering with an unhealthy gleam. Brittany, Stephen breathed out, instinctively taking a step to shield Amanda. What are you doing? What do you think? Brittany's voice sounded unnaturally calm, contrasting with the crazed look in her eyes. I've come to take back what's mine. Brittany, please. Stephen held up his hands in a conciliatory gesture. Think about what you're doing. Put the gun down and we can talk. Talk? Brittany laughed bitterly. We've had enough talking, Stephen. I gave you a chance to come back to me the easy way, but you chose her. She nodded toward Amanda, who was frozen on the couch, paralyzed with fear. Brittany, you don't want to do this. Stephen tried to speak calmly, though inside everything was chilling with terror. Put the gun down. We can work this out. No, we can't, Brittany cut him off. You said you hated me, that I was a mistake. After everything that happened between us, her voice shook. Have you been lying to me this whole time, Stephen? When you said you loved me, that I was special, that you'd never met a woman like me. Was that all a lie? Brittany, Stephen started, but she interrupted him with her shotgun. Don't lie anymore, she screamed. I saw the messages on your phone when you left it unattended. I saw what you texted your wife on the same days you were with me. Miss you. Love you. Can't wait for tonight. While with me you were saying your marriage was falling apart. Amanda sobbed quietly, and Brittany shifted her gaze to her. Oh, don't cry, dearie, she said with fake pity. Your husband is a splendid liar. He's been deceiving both of us. Brittany, listen to me. Stephen took a small step forward. What you're doing right now is crazy. You're going to throw your whole life away. Think about the consequences. Consequences? Brittany laughed hysterically. My life is already ruined, Stephen. You ruined it when you made me believe you loved me and then threw it away like a worthless thing. She pointed the shotgun right at Amanda. I'm going to destroy what you hold dear first. so you'll feel the same pain I did." "No!" Stephen shouted, lunging forward. A gunshot rang out, deafening in the confined space of the living room. Stephen felt a burning pain in his shoulder and fell to the floor. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard Amanda scream and turned his head. He saw his wife jump up from the couch and rush toward the kitchen exit. "Where are you going?" Brittany said coldly, reloading her shotgun. "We haven't finished our conversation yet." She followed Amanda, ignoring Stephen, who was struggling to get up in pain. Blood was pouring down his shirt, but the wound didn't seem to be fatal. Most of the charge had passed him by. "Brittany, stop!" he shouted, but she had already disappeared through the doorway. Stephen staggered to his feet and, holding onto the wall, followed. The kitchen seemed empty, but suddenly Amanda jumped out from behind the dining table, holding a kitchen knife. "Leave us alone!" she shouted, lunging at Brittany. Brittany took a step back but didn't have time to raise her shotgun. Amanda stabbed her, but the blade only slid down her arm, leaving a shallow wound. Brittany howled in pain and rage, threw the shotgun away, and grabbed Amanda by the hair, slamming her head violently against the wall. Amanda shrieked and dropped the knife. Stephen lunged forward, but at that moment Brittany picked up the shotgun from the floor and pointed it again at Amanda, who was slowly sliding down the wall, stunned by the blow. "Now watch," Brittany said, looking Stephen straight in the eye. "Look what happens to those who try to keep us apart." "Brittany, no!" Stephen shouted, but it was too late. A second shot rang through the house, and Amanda's whole body shuddered and she collapsed lifelessly. The blood ran down her snow-white blouse, staining it scarlet. "No!" Stephen's howl was more like an animal growl. He rushed forward, not feeling the pain in his wounded shoulder, not thinking about his own safety. The only thing he saw was his wife's lifeless body and the killer standing over it. Brittany turned to him, and in her eyes, Stephen saw something new, a realization, as if only now did she realize what she had done. But it was too late. "Stop," she said, raising the shotgun again. "Stay back." But Stephen didn't stop. He moved toward her like a man possessed, his face twisted with rage and grief. "You killed her," he said in a muffled voice. "You killed Amanda." "I didn't mean to. It just happened." Brittany started to back away, her hands shaking with the shotgun. "Stephen, I just wanted to be with you." "You ruined everything," Stephen continued, stepping on top of her. "You destroyed everything." There were tears in his eyes, but he moved with the determination of a man with nothing to lose. Brittany kept backing away until her back was against the wall. "Stay back," she shouted, pointing the shotgun at him. "I'll shoot." Stephen stopped a few feet away from her. "Go ahead," he said quietly. "Take the shot. Finish what you started." Brittany's hands trembled more and more. Tears streamed down her face. "I loved you," she whispered. "I really did." Stephen took another step forward. "If you loved, you wouldn't be doing this," he said. "Love doesn't destroy, Brittany. It builds." And he took another step. A third shot rang out. Stephen felt the impact, like he'd been hit in the chest with a sledgehammer. He swayed, but remained standing. Blood poured down his shirt, but he felt no pain, just a coldness spreading through his body. "Brittany," he said, struggling to say the words. "What have you done?" And he collapsed to the kitchen floor. Brittany stood staring at the two lifeless bodies in front of her. The shotgun fell from her weakened hands. The reality of what was happening finally hit her. She had killed two people. The man she thought she loved, and the woman who had done nothing wrong to her except being Stephen's legal wife. Brittany slowly sank to the floor, leaning against the wall. With trembling hands, she pulled her cell phone out of her pocket and dialed a number. "Emergency services," a woman's voice answered. "What's your emergency?" "Yeah, I killed people," Brittany said, her voice sounding strangely calm. "Two people, a man and a woman." "State your name and address." The operator's voice changed, becoming more tense. Brittany gave her name and the address of the Reeves house. "Stay where you are," the operator said. "The police are on their way." "I'm not going anywhere," Brittany replied, and disconnected the phone. She sat on the kitchen floor, not taking her eyes off Stephen and Amanda's bodies. Police sirens were already wailing from the street. The small-town police station was only a short drive away. Soon the place would be full of people. She would be arrested. There would be a trial, jail. But it all seemed so distant and unreal. The only real thing was the two lifeless bodies on the kitchen floor and the realization that she had destroyed 3 lives with her own hands, theirs and her own. When the first police officers burst into the house with guns at the ready, they saw a young woman sitting on the floor next to a shotgun and 2 bodies next to her. The woman did not resist as she was handcuffed. She just kept looking at the man on the floor, tears streaming down her face. "I just wanted him to love me," she told the officer who led her to the patrol car. "I just wanted to be loved." "You have the right to remain silent," the officer said mechanically. "Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law." Brittany was no longer listening. Her thoughts were with the man she had loved and killed with her own hands. With Stephen, who chose his wife over her, who said he hated her, Brittany.